While I was uploading the last video that I shot, that was the update for the TX CD player, and I had that Belkin Ipod transmitter hooked up, showing that it does work through the auxiliary output. I was cruising the internet while YouTube uploaded my video, and I thought, you know, just for the heck of it, I'll punch into the internet that model of that Belkin Ipod adapter, just to see if anybody else has had any troubles with it or anything like that. Well, I gotta say, for once, the sun actually shines on me on this particular subject, because I paid a good deal of money for this thing 3 years ago when I bought it. It was right around $99. I wanted a good iPod dock and a base for my vehicle, so I paid a little extra and I got decent quality. It worked very well for what I got. But what I found when I plugged that model into the internet, Belkin had a recall on these. Oh, the plot thickens. I don't know how well you can read this. There's 3 different models. This one is a Tunebase F8Z441. This one is a Tunebase F8Z442. And this one's mine right here, which it was an F8Z176 with the clear scan. You just push the button and it automatically finds your frequency. Belkin had a recall on these, but it's only for a few months that they had a recall. It's for consumers between April 1st of 2009 and October 30th of 2009. Fits my criteria perfectly. And what they had happen with these, on the back side of them, right here is a steel washer underneath of that little screw. That's where you pull your fuse out and replace it. After a while of this thing being in your cigarette lighter, it compresses that rubber gasket and pushes it back and allows that steel washer right there basically to short out in your cigarette lighter, and A, in my case, run the battery dead, or B, a worst case scenario, it'll catch fire. So evidently that must have shorted out on that one and fried something inside of it, just enough that it doesn't work. You know, probably that electronics are a little sensitive to voltage spikes and stuff like that, I'm guessing. So there is a recall on this. That's nice. I'm glad to find that out. So what they do is you go on the internet. I found this at let's see, this is at www.belkin.com support/Tunebase/exchange info, and you'll find it right at their website, which again is Belkin, B-E-L-K-I-N. And what they do, they wind up giving you a paper you sign and you fill out, your email address, of course, your name, city, state, zip code, blah blah blah, your product, the number you're going to exchange. So evidently they expect you to send in more than one. But what they'll do in return, they'll give you an RMA number and documentation to assist with the return of the product. It reads, once you have completed the form, they will ship you let me read this again, a prepaid shipping label will be emailed to you. Place the product in the box, put the label on the box, take it to your local UPS facility, and they kick the goal from there. And after that, I do not know what happens, but you know, for once at least something worked out for me, because I was actually going to get ready to scrap the thing or figure out how to modify it with that iPod FM transmitter that I had hooked up to it earlier to make it work, you know, at least breathe a little bit more life into a previously wore out product. But that's interesting to know, because that could have turned out very, very bad if that thing had shorted out in the vehicle, out in the garage, and I would have known it and burnt my garage down. I'd been just a little bit more than upset about that. Well, the reason I was going to put this video up before I found out all that wonderful information was there was a guy, he's out in California I believe, and his YouTube handle is Shango066, and recently he repaired a All-American 5-tube radio with capacitors out of one of these CFL spiral light bulbs. You know, I admire him greatly for recycling that kind of stuff. I had never thought about that, and it ticks me off because probably 2 weeks before that I threw away 2 of them because they weren't lighting correctly and they were getting real dark down by the ends. This is not out of one of those. This is out of a high output cold start fluorescent shop light that my father-in-law had, that one of the lights quit working on last night, so he tore it apart, bought him a new one, put the new one up, blah blah blah. But there's a lot of salvageable parts on some of this stuff. You know, there's at least let's count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. There's about 13 or 15 capacitors on there. There's a few resistors. There's a few transistors on there. But I think what the death of this thing was, and you won't be able to see it in the video, I about guarantee you my camera's too grainy, is that these wires were cracked loose. There's a crack, a cold solder joint right there on that red wire and that red wire right there. There's a cold solder joint, and the solder joint was solder joints I should say are very poor on this. The big blobs of solder. There's places around this, I don't know what these little transformers were wound for, but there's holes in the solder. Just a very poor design product, and guess what? This was made in the United States, or so it says anyway, but it's going to be repurposed. I'll take the capacitors out and use them for projects on down the road. I mean, there's some nice, these are 200 volt capacitors, a 47 microfarad. There's some 1600 volt capacitors on here. There's a couple low power electrolytics around 50 volts. Them blue ones are 630 volt, 333K. You know, there's a lot of reusable parts on there. Plus, this little fan switch will work in my ceiling fan down in the bedroom. I just bought one of them at Lowe's. They were like $4. If I'd have died about a week later, or a week sooner, I could have got me a new switch. But that didn't work out. At least this did. So, thanks for watching, and we'll post more up later.